Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for a little bit later than usual press conference reaction. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon or lunchtime. I hope you're all doing well. Please do give it the thumbs up if you do enjoy today's show. And, of course, if you're new, please do subscribe. It is free to do so. But don't forget to hit that notification bell, which will let you know when we go live or we upload any videos. Of course, you can donate to the Toon Review if you do so wish today by hitting that $sign at the bottom of the live comments, which will, as usual, guarantee your comment to be read out on the show. And don't forget, you can become a member of the Toon Review and support the channel that way by hitting the join button underneath myself. And we do have some fantastic prizes coming up in the next week or so for the members. So please do stay tuned for that. Right, obviously today is all about what Eddie had to say in the press conference after the absolute shit show that we saw on Wednesday night against Crystal Palace, which was an absolute disaster, really. It was crap from the word go, although you could maybe say we had a good 2 minutes at the start of the game where we looked like we were going to take them on. Yeah, it was terrible. Ollie says, great show last night from Billy and Alex in your absence. I knew nothing about it, guys. I had a really bad episode with my blood sugar last night. Susan came home from the hairdresser to find me unconscious on the bed. I'd completely just blacked out, and she had to pump some glucose tubed into my mouth and get me up and running again. So it was a little bit scary, as it normally is when it comes to blood sugar. But I feel like I've been hit by a truck today, but feeling better than I was, that's a certainty. So Susan once again had to come to my rescue, as she always does. Anyway, today is all about the press conference and what Eddie had to say, of course. Now, I expected him to come out fighting in this press conference, given what had happened on Wednesday night, and given that you know what he said after the game about you know the mentality, etc., which I did the video on yesterday afternoon. He wasn't happy with the mentality, the attitude, etc. It's got to come both ways. I mean, Eddie was saying that, you know, if we go out to do something tactically, he expects the mentality and the attitude of the players to be spot on. And it wasn't on Wednesday at all. It was far from that. We didn't get started. There wasn't anything really going for us during the game. And you know what it is? It's just, it was one of them, wasn't it? The away form again is very questionable this season. And he does actually start the press conference with that point. He said, we were disappointed. We acknowledge that and hold our hands up to it. We missed those resilient qualities that we need. And that has been too often the case away from home. We have to do better. So really, finally, Eddie's coming out and addressing the home form, which was shocking. Sorry, the away form, I do apologize, which was shocking. It's been shocking all season. You know, you look back and say, well, we beat Fulham recently, didn't we? Were we really good in that game, though? No. And had Fulham had a decent striker on the pitch, I think they would have been 3 up in the first 20 minutes of that game. So the away form, I don't know what is said in the dressing room. I don't know what Eddie says to the lads. I don't know what the lads feel about going away from home. But whatever it is completely wrong right now. Something is missing away from home. And, you know, we've got 5 games now. And a big game coming up at Old Trafford as well. Now, if we get points in our next couple of games, this game against Man United at Old Trafford is going to be pinnacle. This could say whether we get European football or we don't. And, you know, a lot of people want European football for Newcastle. And let's be honest, we need European football to hang on to our players. You know, I know people are mentioning there about the Bruno release clause. Now, obviously, that is now we found out is on a time limit, so it disappears after a certain amount of time, which is absolutely brilliant from my point of view. Because I don't think when this release clause is active, I don't think a lot of clubs due to PSR will have the money to buy him. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I have to be honest. I think he'll be here next season, but if that's the case, then the release clause is no more. It's away. It's gone. It's history. Ruffyard Benisian says only the bottom 4 have less points than us away from home. Yeah, I mean that's just that sums it up, doesn't it? It just sums it up completely. Niall says 10 losses out of 16 away games says it all. And you look to last season and think, wow, how resolute we were away from home and how very difficult we were to beat. Yeah, we went to some away games and we got pummeled. Fair enough, but in general, we were a lot more resolute, and I don't know what's gone wrong this season away from home. I really don't. And you could say that the home form as well hasn't exactly been awesome. We've dropped points against teams that we'd expect to beat. Let's be fair. If we want to be an elite side, you look to the Nottingham Forest and the Luton games. I mean, no disrespect to them, they did brilliantly to get results out of the game, but you have to be winning these games. And for me, the 11 that we had on the pitch were good enough to win them games. And something just is missing at the minute. And probably the thing that's missing is the quality. You talk about the missing of Joe Linton and Nick Pope, etc. And that's probably why. Richard says, I didn't think Trippier would be out for so long. It's madness, isn't it? It's absolutely madness. 5 games to decide if we get into Europe. JT Toon, afternoon, Paul, and afternoon to everyone in the chat. Hope we're all well. Pope is a big miss in the back line, 100%. And, I've said regularly, and I think Billy and Alex touched on this last night on the show as well. He's probably been the biggest injury this season. When you look at what Nick Pope can do for the defense, when those balls are coming over the top or through the middle or even down the channels, Nick Pope is aware of everything and he's out to clear it 9 out of 10 times. There's the odd time he makes a rick, but that's just goalkeeping for you. But I genuinely think that Nick Pope has been the biggest miss for a defensive situation. Becky says, what positions get into Europe? Well, I think if we finish, is it the top 7 get into Europe or is it just the 6? I don't know. I'm not sure. Somebody will put me right on that in the chat. Lack of Trippier and J7 who deliver away performances. Yeah, look, some players for me don't stand up away from home, and it's clear. You can look at certain positions on the pitch, but the actual individuals who don't stand up, you look back at the away games this season and you could make a list of players who you think, wow, they haven't turned up today. And it seems to be a regular occurrence away from home. So I'm not sure what the hell's going on, to be honest. I mean, I know in my own mind as a Newcastle United fan that some of these players are simply not good enough. Simply not good enough. And that will be, hopefully changed around in due course. But just the lack of belief and the lack of, I'm not going to say effort, because I think I would never accuse the lads of not putting the effort in. But the mentality was completely wrong on Wednesday. I don't know whether they thought because of the Spurs game they were going to walk into Selhurst Park and just destroy them because where Palace are in the league, rather than look at Palace's latest results and say, wow, this manager's really turned things around here and things are very different at that football club now. So we've got to be on our game. I don't know what kind of attitude they went in with, but, Eddie did question the attitude, and I worried about that a little bit. Sheffield have conceded 92 goals. We need to make it 100. Yes, but they've picked up a little bit of form lately. They did well at Old Trafford the other night. Look, again, I don't want to sound disrespectful to teams in the Premier League, but again, if we want to be where we want to be as an elite side, we have to look at playing Sheffield United at home and think, right, come on, this has got to be a victory. We've got to win this game and win this game comfortably. This is an opportunity to get rid of Wednesday night out of the system and get back to basics. Get back to scoring goals, playing with intensity, and making sure that we get the result that we need and, improve our goal difference again. That's how I'd be looking at the game on Saturday, tomorrow, sorry. And obviously we'll discuss that more in the preview tonight, which is at 7:00, by the way, so don't forget to join us for that one. The thing that's missing is Big Joe. If Bruno goes, I will be gutted, but also the funds would come in handy to help build a stronger squad. It's a catch-22 situation. Yeah, some people have mentioned on social media about that, and if he went and we got the money for him, it would enable us, because of the way, if we sold him for 100 million or something like that, there'd be probably quadruple that in the pot available to spend, which is bizarre. So we could actually bring in 4 or 5 very, very good players to replace Bruno and build the squad. But I don't want to lose Bruno. I'm of the opinion if we are wanting to be a top side up and charging at the Premier League, winning trophies, being in Europe. We have to build a side around Bruno and Isak. I don't want Bruno going anywhere. I can see what Fubar Steve means, though. It is a very much a catch-22 situation when it comes to, players leaving. But I don't want him to leave. I really don't. I'd be gutted, especially if it was another Premier League side. I don't even want to think about that. Pope training again, but won't assume he will play the last 5 games. We have 5th best points total at home. If we're 5th on away form, we would be 5th. Yeah. But it's all ifs and buts at the minute, isn't it? And that's the problem. 4 or more goals would be a nice bonus tomorrow. Troll says, my fear is how getting English expensive players if Bruno goes, and it won't be great players either, to be fair. That's a worry. We have to trust, and these words have been said many times by Newcastle United fans, but we have to trust in the process, trust in the manager. And I think if the trust starts to dwindle, then we have a problem. At the minute, I'm still well and truly behind Eddie Howe. I always have been, and I just hope that, I think if he's got his best 11 available, we finish a lot higher in the league. That's just the way it is. Just feel Bruno on his way to Man City this summer, or Liverpool, if they sell Salah for over 100 million. There must have been a reoccurrence in Trippier's injury because he's still not available, been out ages now. I don't get the Trippier one. I just don't get the Trippier one. Any response from the club on the Stewart incident? Absolutely sod all. Nothing. I've heard literally nothing from that football club. What are we, 4 weeks, nearly 4 weeks on now since the incident? It's not good enough. It's disgusting. Do you think we are lacking leadership on the pitch, Paul? In a way, yes. I think there's a couple of players within our starting 11 who could be future captains of the football club, but I don't think they're ready yet. You look at the likes of Bruno. Could he captain the side? Absolutely, at some point. Anthony Gordon, after that interview, what he was saying about being a leader and things like that, you would think sometime down the line he would. You look at Botman, who's obviously going to be injured a long time, but he's a future leader for me. Dan Burn is very much a leader in the dressing room. He seems to be a leader on the pitch. But maybe, you need more than one leader on that football pitch, especially when things aren't going right. 100%. I've had it with VAR now. When Jota's delayed dive against us at Anfield was given and Longstaff's wasn't, you have to wonder what it's for. All in all, we weren't good enough, though. We must improve. Look, I was 100% behind Mark Goldbridge yesterday. I watched it later on last night when he was doing a watch-along on the Brighton Man City game, and he cut the stream at half-time because he was just fed up of watching the same old shit and same old referee and performances, same old garbage. And I was right behind him with that. I thought, yeah, go on, Mark, you've got a point there. We need to start. These people at the top need to get messages through from the fans that we've just had enough of this shit. We've had enough of these top teams being given decisions after decisions after decisions. It's ridiculous. And they're so blatant now. I mean, you're right. You look back at Jota's penalty against us, and how on earth? I mean, it wasn't a penalty for a start. He didn't even touch him. Jota went down about 2 yards after he passed Dubravka. Now, do I think Sean Longstaff went down very easily on Wednesday night? 100% I do. Absolutely. However, it was still a penalty in my mind because when you watch from the camera behind the goal with the face onto them, he does knock him off balance. It is a penalty. And it's a soft one, yes, but it's still a penalty. He knocked him off balance. He fouled him. Sean went down too hard for me, but, it was still a penalty. But, had that been Bruno Fernandes or whoever it may be at the top, Salah, Jota even, that would have been a penalty. You're guaranteed that VAR would have given a penalty there, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. Now, Eddie went on to talk about Tino Livramento, who, of course, missed the game. Well, he didn't miss the game. He was on the bench for Crystal Palace, and Eddie came out and said he was only there for an emergency. I'm not quite sure what he meant by that, because if losing 2-0 or 1-0 to Crystal Palace isn't an emergency when we need the points, I don't know what is. Tino came on against Tottenham and had a slight reaction in his ankle after that game. It was minimal. It is the same story with a few of the players. We are having to look after him, and hopefully those few days rest will make a big difference. Let's see how he feels today before making a decision on him tomorrow. Now, I just don't get this, right? I said this in the video yesterday. I know people came back and said, well, you know, he was fit to play against Tottenham and it's a reaction after that. Then why put him on the bench against Crystal Palace and come out with a really silly excuse saying he was there for an emergency? That makes no sense at all. At all. If he wasn't fit and he was injured, why put him on the bench? This is the problem we've had all season. We're putting players on the bench. They're not fit to start. It's ridiculous. And for me, I just find the whole thing really, really confusing, guys. I do. I don't understand why he would say that he's there for an emergency. When we're getting beat off Crystal Palace, is that not an emergency enough? I just think it's weird. And it's been going on all season, just weird decisions with injured players. Niall says players come on when not needed and then out longer. Yeah, but I mean, there's no reason to put him on the bench on Wednesday night. He had no intention of playing him, so there's no point putting him there. JT Toon says, absolutely, Paul. Goldbridge had a good point. Fair play to him. Us fans need to express our disgust now. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Yeah, exactly. And I know Goldbridge is a Man United fan and people have a go at him at times, but, you know, I do like Mark. I really do like what he does. I think he's so committed to his channel and he works really hard at it and he deserves all the luck in the world. I don't agree with everything he says. Absolutely not. Of course I don't. But that's just football, and he's a Man United fan, so I don't agree with him most of the time. But on things like this, I'm 100% behind him because I think, you know, it's blatant who the Premier League want to win the league. You can see that. And it's blatant who they want relegated from the league as well. You can see that with their decisions that they don't get. So it's so obvious now. It's so obvious to everyone. And I agree with him when he says the Premier League is not the best league in the world anymore. We are way behind that because of damn disgusting officiating, wanting the same people to win the league season after season. And it's about time that something got done. Rachel, good afternoon. Quick hello in the car. Sorry, not around much. I'm ill and got my mum in hospital. Do a lot going on. Yeah, you've got a lot going on, Rachel. Don't worry. And love to your mum as well. And I hope she's still on the road to recovery. Hamid says, don't watch any of the Howe press conferences anymore. Can't stand him anymore. Same shite every week. Just wait for Paul to tell it because he says it better. Well, yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't agree with the Livramento one. I can't. I mean, I can't as a Newcastle fan, given what's happened this season. I can't agree with that crap. Goldbridge is a different person on that football, but on the United stand, he's completely deluded. Well, I think he does it deliberately, and he's good at what he does. Very good at what he does. He gets people riled up to the point that they actually watch him. Whether they're a Man United fan or not, they still watch the United stand with him because he's controversial, and he does that, and he's very good at it. But yeah, he's got a different view on that's football. That's a general football channel. And he says some very good points on there. Extra Champions League spot is gone now due to the number of German clubs left in Europe. Yeah, it is. Best league in the world for competitiveness is the Championship. Always has been. I can't disagree with that either. The Championship is right up there. Mike says, hi, Paul. Just to say sorry for putting score for other games. I know not to put any Newcastle United scores up when you and Billy do in live commentary. It's fine, Mike. Other games, by all means, put them up. Just not Newcastle's. Obviously, if you're ahead of us in the stream and you put it up, then they'll get taken down. But other games that don't involve Newcastle, absolutely, Mike, go ahead and put them up. It's nice to know that we can keep an eye on other footballs as well. That's football pulls in more views than even AFTV for an Arsenal watch along. Yeah, it does. Because I think genuinely people do like Mark Goldbridge, and I think the way, people tend to, obviously, if they're not a Man United fan, they won't watch the United stand. But if they're a general football fan, and Mark does a show on That's Football, and he talks some good sense on there, and the way he's going at the PGMOL at the minute is bang on. Ian Bell, my old mucker from Setanta. How are you doing, Ian? I did get your email, matey. I will reply to you soon. We are a bit harsh on Eddie. Look at what we have done with all the injuries, and we are on where we are on the table. I think it's good regardless. Look, I think given what we've had to deal with this season, I think where we finish in the season is still going to be very positive. It's just disappointing, though. You go to Palace and you want to see a real, another performance like the Spurs one, where we just went at them, with Palace playing those games in between us playing a game and Wednesday night. Palace had 3 games. You would expect us to be the fitter side and the much stronger side to go out and, win games quite well and put the intensity in. But the intensity was completely missing on Wednesday night. And that questions everything. What were they doing in that break? What were they training on? What were they focusing on? Were they taking the game too lightly? Jade says, playing devil's advocate, could not mean emergency in the instance that a player on the pitch gets more injured than Tino? Because that has been our pattern this season. To a point, yes, Jade, you're right. Maybe that is, but when he had other defenders on the bench, given what you're saying there, the pattern this season, I would have just left him out. I just don't put him in the squad. Just saying, he's had a little bit of a response to his ankle injury, but he'll be fit for Saturday or something like. Just say something like that. Don't saying an emergency. I kind of just throws fans a little bit. That's all. Just a thought, Paul. If Premier League viewing figures on TV drop and TV want to pay less, I think PSR will go as Toxic 6 revenue will be hit. Yeah, and that's the bottom line. That is what is going to happen. These cartel clubs. Not for me. Absolutely not for me. They can go in the Super League, disappear. Give us our football back. Give us the football that we love back. Go back to Division 1 to 4 and then sod off the cartel clubs to the Super League. Bugger them. If that's where they want to be, if that's what they concentrate on is just money, we want to see proper football back. Rachel wants a 10-0 win tomorrow. I mean, that's yeah. Thanks everyone for explaining the Europe question. It's so confusing. It is. You're right, Becky. It's very confusing. But I think now, because of what's happened in Europe, with German clubs still going very strong. How dare customers ring me when I'm on the Toon review? How dare they, Julie? How dare they? Right, let's have a look at what he had to say on Callum Wilson. Callum came through fine. I thought he looked good and worked well with the lads around him. He had a couple of dangerous moments. That was a positive from Wednesday. Dangerous moments? Really? Did Callum Wilson have any dangerous moments in front of goal? Because we only had one shot on target. Eddie, are you a bit blinkered here, my man? One shot on target, and that was a header from Elliot Anderson towards the end of the game, which was weak as pea. I didn't see Callum Wilson have a couple of dangerous moments. Don't get me wrong, I thought he did well when he came on, actually. He held the ball up well, did bring players into it a little bit better than what we had been doing throughout the game. But when he says dangerous moments, and that was a positive, I can't agree with Eddie on that one, because I'm looking back thinking, where were these dangerous moments? Where were they? Because, he didn't have any shots, so how can he say dangerous moments? And this is what really just annoys me a little bit about certain things that the manager says in press conferences. When you look back at the actual game and you think, hang on a minute, let's be honest here, Eddie. There was no dangerous moments for Callum Wilson. He didn't have any shots. I mean, that's not getting at Callum Wilson. Callum did well when he came on. He looked strong. He was holding the ball up. He was roughing the defenders up, but he didn't have any dangerous moments where we looked like we were going to score. I don't get it. I mean, why say things like that? This is what pees me off in these press conferences. Just be honest and say, well, he held the ball up well, he looked strong, and he came through unscathed. But saying it was a positive from Wednesday that he had a couple of dangerous moments, he didn't. Let's have a look. Julie wants a cricket score tomorrow. Interesting. JT Toon, I'm hoping now that these greedy cartel clubs do sort off now, to be honest. It's getting tiresome, and I do feel their days are now numbered at the top as people are twigging to what their game is. Keith says, don't think that Saturday's game is going to be another high-score game. They're not the same team as they were. No easy games in the Premier League, but yes, we need to be winning this one 2-0. I just, to be honest, right, I'd like to just see us go out tomorrow and play like we know we can play, and then whatever the score will be, right? If we score 2 or we score 5 or we score 6, I don't mind. I just want to see a strong, really good performance. And that's all I want as a fan, to be honest. Grim says dangerous moments as he could have got injured again. Yeah, that's probably the dangerous moments. He had a couple of dangerous moments, but came through unscathed. Maybe that's what he means. Maybe he had a couple of dangerous moments, i.e. challenges, and he's come through unscathed. Maybe he doesn't mean shots on goal. So that could actually be right. Eddie's been gaslighting a lot this season, but if we say anything, the Eddie fan club will call us names. Well, look, I'm just being openly honest here, as I always am on this channel, and a lot of people think, oh, sometimes it's negative, or he's just getting at Eddie Howe. But I must admit, I've got to say that sometimes when Eddie's in a press conference, I'm confused at what he says, because I look back and think, well, that didn't actually happen. And then when he talks about the injuries and things like that, it makes you scratch your head and you're thinking, what the hell's going on? But I mean, look. This may be to throw other managers off the scent of whatever tactics Eddie's got for tomorrow, etc. But sometimes I just think, just tell the truth. Just come out and tell the truth. Be honest with the fans. Don't sort of, I'm not saying he's lying to the fans, by the way. I'm saying just be fully honest. Don't just skip around the subject, but just tell us what's going on. Because he didn't have any dangerous moments in front of goal, but maybe he means tackles on him, and he's come through fine. Anyway, he went on to talk about Pope, Joe Linton, and Miggy Almiron. He said they're getting closer. Nick is beginning to start his early training sessions with us. He has started to be with outfield players in shooting drills. Joe Linton has seen a specialist and is working on his own program. Miggy is there or thereabouts and could be back next week. It's good news on Miggy, definitely. Joe Linton, I'm not sure. He didn't mention Trippier though. I'm looking through the comments on X now, where I'm obviously on the Newcastle page getting the quotes from Eddie, and everybody's asking, saying, "What about Trippier? What about Trippier? He's never mentioned him." I mean, for all we know, Trippier could end up back on the pitch tomorrow. That's just the way it's been this season, hasn't it? Players just appear from nowhere, thinking, "Oh, thought he was out for a while." But it's good news on Nick Pope, but I still stick by my opinion that I don't think Nick Pope will be back this season. And quite frankly, do we really need to rush him back? I know Dubravka's not the answer, guys. That's not what I'm saying. But with 5 games left, just let him have a bit more time and then the preseason and be back to his best next season. I know we miss him. I've said that at the start of the show, that he, for me, is the biggest miss out of all the injuries this season. 100% he is, because he has... The defense have so much confidence. Excuse me. The defense have so much confidence in him, and he has confidence in himself to come off his line. Dubravka doesn't have that, and that's the difference, I think, between the players. Miggy hopefully will come back and offer us something. I know I've criticised Miggy a lot this season, but given Murphy's performances, Murphy's very hot and cold at the minute, as Miggy is, to be honest. But I think Miggy, with him having a good few weeks out injured, he may come back a little bit stronger and offer us a little something different, which I'm quite looking forward to. But Joe Linton, I mean, he's seen a specialist working on his own program. That doesn't say to me that he's coming back anytime soon. Agree, Paul. It confuses us. It will be completely dumbfound the opposition. Eli says, did you hear about here in the podcast? He said that they have a meeting every other week and they will tell people off in mainstream media if it doesn't agree with the line they want to take. Yeah. Keith says, mate, your honesty and the rest of the team's honesty is what makes this channel better than the rest. Real fans with real opinions. Love this channel. Keep up the amazing work you all do. Thank you, Keith. That's very kind, man. Really kind. Hope they rest Pope and Joe till next season, says Craig. I'm the same opinion, guys. I really do. I hope he does. There's no point rushing them back. Next season is very, very important. Very, very important. And, we need our very best players available. Especially, let's just see who we bring in the summer as well. Jock says, Pope won't be back. If I was Eddie, I wouldn't risk him. Ian says, Pope leads the defense line when he plays. Without him, the defense is shaky at best. Ronald says, I was a critic of Dubravka going to Man U, but I wanted him to play well despite that, and he has failed to do that. Look, I'm not sure what you guys think of that second goal on Wednesday night for Palace, but I mean, it just summed everything up for you, how that game went, from start to finish. Through his legs, his positional play is very suspect. Don't get me wrong, good shot stopper. I've said that a million times, but to be an all-round goalkeeper, you have to have that positional sense. You have to have that confidence to come off your line. And Dubravka, so many times when a ball is played through, he comes off his line, he stops, he goes back. I've linked it to the hokey-cokey many times, guys, because I really do think that's the way it is. But yeah, I think we'll go for another goalkeeper in the summer, and I think what will happen is both goalkeepers will be really stretched next season, really pushing one another for that number one spot, whoever it may be. Niall says, I honestly think we need another top-class keeper because we don't know how long before Pope's shoulder can go again. It's a very good point, and I mentioned that time and time again about Nick Pope's, the shoulder. It's what, twice he's done this now? Twice he's done the shoulder. Yeah, it's a risk, isn't it? Karius is the answer now, unless Pope is ready, which I doubt. Fubar says, I hope Gordon starts on the left. I like him and Barnes being on the pitch together, but Gordon seems far more comfortable and effective on the left wing. I agree, but I don't think Barnes is the same. I don't think Barnes could be effective on the right. I just don't. I think Gordon has that utilization about him where you can play him anywhere across the front three. I think you could play Anthony Gordon anywhere and he'd give it 110. But I do agree. I think Gordon on the left is far better. He said that in his interview, didn't he? That's where he prefers to play. Case Ball, thank you for your super chat. Eddie watches a different game from the rest of us. Sometimes I do believe that. But what a manager sees down on the sidelines is probably very different from what we see, on the TV. It's very much, it's certainly a different view. I know he's got people in the stands as well. Some of his coaches are up in the stands watching from high up, getting a better view of the game. So, but for Eddie himself, I mean, down on the touchline, he's level with the players. He's got to rely on a lot of people to tell him information that he can't necessarily see on the pitch. But that's the same for every other manager, guys, so it's not really an excuse. No, it's not on TV. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff, Kieran. But yeah, as usual, we've got it here on the Toon Review live commentary from 2:30 with me and Billy tomorrow afternoon. Keith says, I know Dubs has done a good job for us, but honestly, never been his biggest fan. Would have preferred to have given Karius a shout. Yeah, I've said I wanted to see Karius, but we won't now. Ian says the Toon has always been all-out attack, and when that fails, we are fooked. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been many times highlighted this season that when we play against a low block, it's very difficult for us. We struggle. But we seem to do better against the top of the league teams than we do against the bottom. It's just really strange. Really strange. Eddie finally said for the final 5 games of the season, we must learn and absorb all the lessons from Wednesday. Every game is so difficult. It is up to us to go firstly into the game with the right mentality and let our players express themselves in the right way. We have to finish the season strongly. We are under no illusions on how important these fixtures are. Now, that's a very important and a very interesting quote from Eddie Howe, because, is he saying that, he knows in his own mind for his own job how important these fixtures are? And obviously for the players to get where they want to be and to hold on to players in the summer. I'm not getting in all this crap about Bruno. Do you know what it is? I looked on X this morning and every other report was about Bruno. Bruno this, Bruno that, Bruno's release clause. Honestly, it's just like everybody is talking about Bruno leaving rather than Bruno himself coming out and saying anything. And he doesn't have to do that. He's not obliged to do that at all. He's said already this season that he's perfect. In fact, he said it within the last few weeks that he's perfectly happy with Newcastle United and he wants to be here next season. Alexander Isak has said the same thing. So I'm not even, it's just annoying. It's people trying to wind Newcastle fans up on a consistent basis, and it's normally the Southern media. Talk Sport can't shut up about it. Sky News can't stop blabbling on about it. It's pathetic and really, really annoying. But it's going to go on. I mean, I just expect that to go on for the rest of as long as Bruno's here. If he's here for 6 years, it'll get on for 6 years. You're guaranteed of that shite. But, he does mention mentality again there. And I think that's really, really hurt Eddie from Wednesday night, is the player's mentality. That's the first time that Eddie Howe has ever come out and mentioned mentality in a press conference or, after the game on Wednesday night, saying that the players did not have the right mentality. Now, that for me is huge. Absolutely huge, because it just says to me that finally Eddie is not going to, protect these players anymore. If these players aren't showing the right mentality and attitude, he will come out and say it. And I don't have any problem with him doing that. I was so pleased, actually, that he came out the other day and said what he said. Because these players can't keep getting away with it. That's the thing for me. It's the players, Eddie takes the brunt of it for everything. And I know Eddie's to blame for some of it. Don't get me wrong. Eddie Howe will undoubtedly be looking at his own performance as well. But it's not all on Eddie, guys. I mean, these players are good enough to beat the likes of Crystal Palace, etc. No disrespect to them, but they are good enough to win these kind of football matches. But if the mentality and attitude isn't right, you're going to get beat. We said that when we went to Luton. When we first went to Kenilworth Road, we said, we were saying, it's going to be 5-6-0. But then we also said, if those players don't go out with the right attitude, they will get absolutely hammered or lose the game, whichever one it may be. We went and lost the game. So you've got to be on the right levels. You've got to have the right attitude, no matter who you're playing, but the mentality simply has to be right. If you go out with the mentality of, these are bottom of the league, we'll stroll this, we will lose the game, because we know when our players aren't at it, they really aren't at it. There's no middle ground for Newcastle United. It's either we play up there or we're right down there in the shit. So we've got to be better. And I'm really pleased that Eddie Howe is actually coming out now and having a dig at his players, because for me, that will hopefully fire them up. Give them a rocket up the arse and get going again. Hamid says, Paul, what happens if we don't win tomorrow? Are you writing off the season, and how? I think if we lose the game tomorrow, I think Eddie's under massive pressure. I do think that. Because losing away to Palace, and then if we don't get a win against Sheffield United, I think he's under pressure. But you know what? I think the players need to take some responsibility here and do it for the manager. Because the manager has protected these lot all season during some shocking performances. He has never come out in the press and had a go at his players. He has protected them all the way through and took the brunt of it for a lot of the performances. Now, Eddie will know that he's to blame for some of them, the tactics or the setup or the substitutions, fine. No problem with that, and we've said it many times, we've criticised him for that. But these players have got away with it because Eddie won't throw them under the bus and have a go at them. But he has now. And I'm all for it. Absolutely all for it, because you can't keep letting the players off when the mentalities aren't right. You've got to call them out. Keith says, want to know what happened to Murphy this season. I know he had an injury, but he's not been at the races since his return. Not some players last year. Then again, he's not alone there. Well, I mean, you could say that about quite a few of them. Simple truth is we had 10 days to prepare and their coach totally outdid Eddie. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that for a second, but you've got to look at the players as well. Because in my eyes, those players on that pitch on Wednesday night were good enough to beat Palace, or at least come away with a point and not get run over like that. It was embarrassing at times. It really was. Julie says, last season, Callum Wilson was second choice for England behind Harry Kane. Now he's back. He could possibly make the Euros if he stays fit. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Julie. I think that's a long call. I really do. With the likes of Ollie Watkins, etc., Ivan Toney, I think they're ahead of him at the minute, and I can't see him making the squad. Even if he scores some goals in the last few games, I think he's fallen backwards. And look, the question is, if he is going to be at Newcastle United this season, next season, would you want him in the England Euros? You'd want him to have a summer off, wouldn't you, and recuperate properly, but I don't think he'd be here next year anyway. Craig says, when we have a break, we seem to play shit and never seem to get up for lower placed teams. Yes, and that's what I mean by that. And I think that's what Eddie means by the mentality of the players. Just because you're playing lower placed teams, it doesn't mean that they don't deserve the same respect as the higher placed teams. They're Premier League teams at the end of the day. And they've earned their right to be in the Premier League. Whether you're at the top or the bottom, they are still a Premier League side. And if that mentality is not right, you've got no chance. Mentality is one of the main things that the attitude and mentality of these players has got to be right every time they cross that white line out of the tunnel. And if it's not, shit hits the fan. And we've seen it so many times with Newcastle this season. So many times. Trull says, I fear how we'll keep most of the players we have, minus Fraser, Hendrick, Hayden, and so on. Again, look, the problem we've got is the players that are running out of contract, fine, they're gone. We don't have to do anything with them. But the players that we technically want to sell, you know, the problem is selling them. Who is going to want to buy them? You know what I mean? There's teams out there who will be looking to improve their squads and think, right, who's available at Newcastle? And nothing. You know, they'll think, oh, you know, they haven't had a great season, or they're always injured. Bugger it. Wacky Angler says, did anyone else see Dougie Freedman on the list for director of football? Yes. That's an interesting one for me. It's come out of nowhere. Man United apparently interested in him as well, but of course they're in a situation with Ashworth at the moment, but we'll see what happens in due course with that. But Dougie Freedman, people are speaking very highly of him. To be honest, I haven't really seen any of the media or anything say that, oh, you know, he's not really that kind of, he's not good enough to be in Newcastle. They've all been very, very positive about him, which is interesting, really. I don't think PIF would be of that opinion. If we don't get Europe and the lethargic performance continues, his feet won't touch the ground. I think the performances have got to improve. I mean, if we don't win games, but they've given it, you know, they come off that pitch and we know they've given it everything, then you can't argue with it. You just say, right, we lost the game. But when you see a performance like Wednesday and you see the just nothing there, you've got to question that. You've really got to question that. And I'm very intrigued to see how they go out tomorrow and perform, because I think Eddie's got to get them right up for the game and they've got to be at their very, very best. I know it's Sheffield United, but like I said, they're a Premier League side and we have to do what we have to do. We can't do anything else. Just go out and be Newcastle United. Stop this lethargic, you know, Billy Big Boots attitude. You know, Fabian Schär, for instance, on Wednesday, he had that horrible attitude on the pitch again, which I hate seeing. He made a brilliant block in the opening 5 minutes from Anderson on the volley, threw himself in front of it. But after that, he was absolutely dog shit. And his passing was terrible. But you looked at his body language on the pitch, and it was that kind of body language that you don't like seeing. And he was all out of the shop. So I want to see that change tomorrow as well. James is here now with the shopping. We'll try and see if I can. Take care, Rich. Take care. Just went through a couple more comments before we end the show. Paul, how are you feeling about Eddie Howe's comments that they'll struggle to buy any elite level players this summer? Well, Mark, quite frankly, I don't believe him, right? I don't believe him, because we have to bring, you know, what we've said is, you know, when we've done transfer shows, that what we'll probably do is we'll look at the free transfer market, see who's available in there. We'll obviously have a look at the loan market and bring in a few transfers as well. But we will always bring in one elite player or one big signing. And I think that this summer will be no different. So I don't believe him when he says that they can't buy any elite players. I think it's bullshit. And I think he's trying to protect, the club and maybe just drop the expectations so much with the fans that maybe, you know, just lay off, let them do the business over the summer and we'll see what happens. I think it's probably the best thing to do, to be honest. But I don't believe him when he says we'll struggle to get elite players. But mind you, if we're not in Europe, I think we will struggle to bring in elite players. How realistic is Bruno will leave? Thoughts from head, not the heart, please, says Darren. I don't think he's leaving. And that's me giving you my honest opinion. That's not my heart overruling my head. That's my head saying I don't think he's going anywhere. Alex says, congratulations to Richie, the truck driver. Absolutely. I thought that was brilliant, actually. But he's not the tallest of guys. I thought, you know, massive big truck with little Matt Ritchie at the wheel. Mental. But there you go, guys. That is the press conference reaction done and dusted. Thank you so much for joining me this Friday at lunchtime. Don't forget, we are back tonight. Me, Billy, Alex, and Sam with the preview for the Sheffield United game tomorrow, looking at the lineups, team news, possible formations, and of course, join in with the all-important score predictions as well. So that's just live, 7 p.m. tonight. Don't miss that. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you for your super chats, etc. Thank you to the mods. And of course, thank you to you guys, because without you guys, there's no show. Over 400 watching on a Friday lunchtime is quite incredible. But you guys, you turn up every time. You're an absolute brilliant audience, and you guys are what makes the channel at the end of the day. So thank you very much, and we will see you again at 7 p.m. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Friday, folks. Take care.
Come back and check out some green.